Hello, everyone, and welcome to this new quarantine-inspired show called Hangin with Herb. It's a time where we'll hang out, have some candid conversation with some of my valued friends. Today, I'd like to welcome a good friend who is an Idol Records recording artist, famously known for writing and singing Breakfast at Tiffany's, the lead singer of the world-renowned Deep Blue Something, my friend, Todd Pipes. How you doing?
I'm okay. How are you doing?
Good. Welcome. Well, we're just going to have some little candid conversation here. I want to, first of all, let's talk about us.
Okay.
I don't know who knows, but we worked together at Faith Christian School and got to know you there, and where you had two children that are going through. Your son has graduated, and your daughter's still there. Of course, your lovely wife, is the principal, elementary principal. And so, tell us a little bit about your work at Faith.
Well, so it was during a time that I had kind of gotten sort of burnt out. I was a record producer. After my time in the band and we did all that stuff, I started focusing on production, and my brother and I opened this big studio in Dallas, and it was awesome. But I was kind of working myself into the ground there, and I felt like I wanted to change. And so I kind of took some time off from the studio and let some other guys kind of take the daily sessions and stuff. And so I started kind of looking around a little bit, and Lisa at the time was working with Marsha Wesley.
Okay.
Who was on the board of Faith and stuff. And so she kind of,
your wife.
Yeah.
All right.
And so the next thing you know, I'm in an interview with at the time it was Mr. Potts, who later became Dr. Potts.
Dr. Potts, right.
Because I happened to have a master's degree in English, and they needed somebody to teach the dual credit classes. So I was hired there to be an adjunct professor. So I kind of worked for two different entities at the same time. Right now I work for Colorado Christian University and Faith Christian School.
Okay.
To teach seniors dual credit, those seniors who qualified dual credit. And then so I met you because at the beginning I coached there for a long time.
Yes, you did.
And so we were together in the athletic department, having all kinds of crazy fun.
Do you remember? I have great memories of the. Speaking of coaching, when I drove your girls' soccer team to the I think it was the semifinal game.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, semifinal game, and and we were favored to win, and it was a tough game, and
yeah, that was.
I thought we were going to state that year and everything. You had a player that was on there named Cat.
Yep.
And Cat Meyer. I mean, I'd never seen her play before, but yeah. I was blown away when I saw her. The speed she had.
Speed. Oh my gosh. It was. Yeah.
I would have never thought.
Yeah.
So we did that, and then coincidentally, Cat Meyer, that same Cat Meyer, is now the head soccer coach and has won how many state championships?
Oh my gosh.
Is it
a
three?
Bunch.
I think it's two or three.
Yeah, and then went to state other times. So
that's right. And went to so she went graduated, went and played somewhere, came back and coached, and is doing a fabulous job with the program. Also, I remember staff retreats.
Yes. And high school retreats.
And high school, that's true.
Wasn't the high school retreat where we went mountain biking?
Wow.
That was, I've retold that story many times. That was one of the funniest, scariest.
Tell the people about our biking.
Okay, so at the time, so there's another person involved, Andy Postema, who is also a coach.
Yes.
So we're at a retreat center. We're getting kind of restless. Postema says, they've got mountain bikes. Let's go. And so, because he and I had done some mountain biking, except he knew that I mountain biked, that I knew he did. And so he says, and so you're there and he's like, do you want to go? And you said, yeah, let's go.
He can ride bikes.
Yeah. So, and so at that particular place, the camp was up high, and then there are all these trails that kind of led down to where the river was and the lake and stuff. And so it was a lot steeper than you thought. And so
Yes.
we headed down this one trail, and I was like, wow, this is nuts. So Postuma was in the very front, and you were in front of him. I mean, you were behind him, and then I was behind you. And it was switching and going crazy and going crazy. And I saw Postuma take this 90-degree left turn, and
Yes.
you just went straight. And you went off the trail, and all I saw was just this bike spinning and yelling. And I'll never forget it.
I had no idea what I was getting myself into.
Yeah, and so I made the turn, and I kept looking back and wondering. It finally leveled out, and you showed up, and we were at the bottom then, and then we realized we had to pedal all the way back up that massive mountain.
Still had a ways to go.
Oh man, that was so crazy. I
Unbelievable.
thought that there was a good chance you were dead, because I couldn't see where you landed. That was great.
I survived it, and that, my friend, was the last bike ride, mountain bike ride I had ever.
Oh.
Yes, sir. That was something. Oh man. Well, Faith Chapels. I remember when I was in charge of Faith Chapels, I had you played with us. I had a bunch of friends come up and play. I thought that was a lot of. That was fun. It was good. It was. The kids loved it. It was a change from the regular chapels, and so we just I really appreciated that. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, those guys that you brought in were fantastic musicians.
Yeah,
and they're more from kind of the R&B world, and even watching them kind of go over stuff, and you realize it's a really different approach to music. Because I'm from more kind of the rock world, which is a lot more influenced by kind of classical and folk music in a way. And then the R&B side of things, it's just the chord voicings are radically different. You know what I mean?
I do.
And so I actually, in college, I was on a jazz scholarship. And so I was, it had been a really long time since I was kind of in that sort of world. And I was like, I had to kind of really readjust my head, because some of the changes they were doing, I'm like, dang, I haven't done that kind of thing in a long time. And it was just really fun,
Yeah. That's some good stuff, man. Okay, tell us a little bit about you. Why don't you start with your birth city, and just kind of tell us a little bit about you and through high school and college and that kind of thing.
Born in Houston, Herman Hospital in a manger. No. Yeah, I was born in Houston. I grew up in sort of the a little bit south of that. I was actually, when I was a little kid, we lived down by the beach. So I grew up in Freeport,
Okay.
Lake Jackson, kind of that thing. And so when I kind of it's funny because around first grade is when we moved up to Huntsville, which was completely a different world, because Huntsville is in the woods and I was from the beach. And I was like, this is crazy, but I loved Huntsville, and I grew to love it because we lived, when I was a little kid, our backyard backed up to the Sam Houston National Forest. And so my backyard was endless woods. And my parents, which probably should have had CPS called on them, they would just let us run wild in the woods, like hours and hours, just miles away from the house, out in the woods. But I knew all the dangerous snakes and stuff, I guess. And so they just let us run wild. And so most of my formative years were in Huntsville.
Okay.
Graduated Huntsville High School, all that kind of stuff. And actually ended up I got my undergrad degree at Sam Houston, which is also there in Huntsville.
Right there. Mm-hmm.
I ended up there, though, only because I didn't get my act together to apply for other colleges. I don't know what I was thinking. Like, I just didn't get my applications in. I'm like, what am I supposed to be doing? And so the solution was, well, just go to Sam Houston for a year, and then you can figure it out. And I thought, awesome, that's fine. And I went there, and I loved it. Like, I loved Sam Houston. and because it seemed very separated from the town in a way. So
Yeah.
it was like, well, okay, even though I'm from here, I really like this, so I'm just going to stay here. So I did. And then I ended up going to graduate school at North Texas
Okay.
because my brother had transferred there because he started at Sam Houston as well, but then he changed his major. And they didn't have that major at Sam Houston, and so he went up to UNT. He was younger than I was.
Okay.
And so, and then I was finishing up, and he called me and said, hey, you know, mom's pushing you to go to graduate school. Why don't you come up here? There's tons of bands, and we'll start a new band. And so I was like, great, because I don't want to get a job yet. I don't even know what I'm doing. And so that was the solution, was to go to graduate school. And then we secretly started a band, and we didn't tell our parents.
Ah.
Yeah, we didn't tell them until we were well along. Because they were it was kind of like, y'all haven't been down here to visit much. We're like, well, you know, we're really kind of busy on the weekends kind of thing. And then it was this one year that we had this really big show, and it was on Christmas night. And so we were having to kind of level, you know, my mom was going, now, why do you have to go back to North Texas on Christmas night? I don't understand. And we're like, okay, we've started a band.
Okay.
We're getting kind of big, and there's a really, really big show, and it's Christmas night, the 25th, and we've got to go back for it. And we thought she was going to freak out, but they were actually fairly cool about it.
Really cool, huh?
Yeah. And so everything, you know, I finished my master's degree there, and the other guys, they're younger than me. We all kind of finished our degrees at the same time. And then a couple months later, just the convergence of the planets, we got our record deal. Just as we were all finishing up, we got our record deal, and then we headed out and did all that stuff for a long, long time.
What's your siblings and family structure?
I have one brother, Toby. He's our guitar player.
Okay.
And mom and dad. And they still, my parents still live in Huntsville, same house, everything.
Really? And do they have a music background?
Yeah, they actually got through college on vocal scholarships.
Okay.
Even though they were not music majors either, but they're like real, what I consider legit singers. What we do is just whatever. They're the real thing. Like, they actually know what they're doing. We're just goofing around. Yeah. So when you're in church and my dad's like kicking it down, you're kind of like, so I never sang in church because they were both just over there just ripping, you know? And so I'm just like, yeah, okay, I'll just listen to them, I guess. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
You didn't want to like hit a wrong note and have your mom go, what's this church? I was raised in the Church of Christ too. So
okay, that's what I was going to ask.
It's just everybody just singing. Yeah.
Singing.
Yeah, that was an awesome background.
Yeah. Good. Well, let's do some rapid fire questions. Some of which that some people that you might know have called and let me know about. So let's go for it.
All right.
Okay, one thing, what was the hardest part about transitioning from a full-time musician to an English teacher at a private Christian school?
Oh my gosh. I tell people all the time, being at that school, and I assume any private school with very involved parents,
yes,
is way crazier than the music business. Okay, it's not bad. But
it's different.
It gets a little intense sometimes. There's like, people are just white knuckling it. But yeah, so that was the thing, just kind of, and also too, you got to remember, and I had various part-time jobs. You know, I worked in libraries and stuff in college, but I had never worked for anyone before. So the culture shock was a little bit weird, but it was mostly that I don't just get to do whatever I want. Like, even when we own our recording studio and produce and all that stuff, we were still calling our own shots the entire time. And so that was very, very different for me.
Different. Well, tell us, someone asked me to have you tell us about your 9/11 experience in your drive home.
Oh, okay. Listen to this. So on September, September 11th. So we were in Boston, and the terrorists flew out of Boston Airport that morning. Okay,
Right.
Logan Airport, and we were supposed to have flown out that morning from Logan Airport, but the record company held us over one more day to do some promotion. Okay, otherwise we could our publicity person would have been on one of the planes. Yeah, and so when we had played a show the day before, and we were going to stay over, and so I'm there in the hotel, and I get up early anyway, and so I had woken up. I had already seen that the hotel didn't have a decent gym, so I wasn't going to bother. But I was awake, so I was just sitting in my room watching a movie, and I get a call on the hotel phone, and it was Lisa, and she never called me. I always called her, but she had figured out where I was and called me, and I'm going, "Hey, what's up?" And she said, "Are you watching TV?" And I said, "Yeah, I am watching a movie. What are you doing?" She's like, "Put it on the networks. Something's wrong." And so I put it on, and it was just as everything was starting to happen. The first plane had hit,
Wow.
and and it was already about. They already had figured out where the plane had come from, and it was like kind of panic. And so I went down to the hotel lobby, and everybody was there. All the guests were in the lobby because everybody's trying to figure out what to do because obviously the airport was instantly shut down.
Yes.
I wake the other guys up. They thought I was pranking them because I was always pranking them early in the morning. And I'm like, "There's a plane," and they're like, "Whatever, that's a lame story." I'm like, No, you got to get up. And so we finally, actually, I got in touch with my dad, called him, and he then called the record company. And we were trying to figure out what to do. So I got him, he called our manager, we got in touch with the record company, and they said, "The van that you have," because they'd rented us a van to go to radio stations in the Boston area. They said, "Just keep the van and drive back to Dallas and dump it off there. And you got to go around New York and Philadelphia. You got to stay away. So you need to head west and then go south." And so we were like, okay. Now, the weird thing too is a lot of our friends in other bands were in New York, and we knew that they were there. So we're talking about like the old 97s and Flicker Stick, the Lemonheads, all these other bands that we were friends with. We happened to know that they were there. And so for some reason, we could get in touch with their cell phones. So we found out that everybody there was okay, headed south. We later found out that the day before, we were in Bangor, I think it's Bangor, Maine. We were in the same hotel as the terrorists. And I remember passing these guys in the hallway because they looked very Middle Eastern, and I just happened to remember them.
Stuck out in you.
Yeah, and so it was like over a year later, and we were talking about something, and I had seen this documentary, and I was going, and there was a picture of the parking lot, and there was the terrorists. They had a white van as well, and our van was parked next to their van in the parking lot of the hotel the night before.
Oh boy.
Yeah, and so all of this stuff, it was crazy, but that was actually when all that happened, and when I was talking to my wife on the phone, that's when she actually said, "I think it's time to come home." And she wasn't just meaning like then. I think she was meaning like we need to go transition to our new phase of life. And I was like, I knew exactly what she meant, and I agreed.
Right. Yeah.
So we made our way home, and I just said, "Look, we have some commitments until about January, and then I'm out." And so that's really actually kind of what happened, because Liam was born at the time. Liam was a baby.
Oh, he was.
Yeah. So
what year was he born?
He was born in 2000.
Oh.
So it was, my life was changing, and I felt like that was kind of a sign to do something different. So
absolutely. Tell me a little bit about the song "Breakfast at Tiffany's," how that kind of came to, and give me a little background on that.
Okay, so I wrote it when I was at North Texas, And I wasn't like a super fan of the movie or anything. I'm not like a super Audrey Hepburn fan. I like her just fine, and I think the movie's kind of funny. But the main thing was, I noticed that whenever that movie came up in conversation, it's like the way people said it, Breakfast at Tiffany's, it sounds really cool. I don't, it just sound, and so I kept thinking, if I can figure out how to work that into a song, which is not easy to do because it's weird phrasing wise. If I can figure out how to do that, I think people will like the song, And so it took me forever, like a good solid year of just kind of thinking about it in the back of my head. And then one day I was sitting on the couch about to go work at the college library, and I just sat down and I started playing this song, and then I just started singing, and I went, "What about Breakfast at Tiffany's?" And I was like, "That's it," And so then I started writing it backwards. I was like, "Why would somebody be saying what about Breakfast at Tiffany's?" And then I was like, "It'll be a breakup song." And all they got out of the relationship is they liked that one movie, which is sort of a hilariously bad relationship. But I was like, that's what it'll be.
Okay.
Now, one thing that's interesting about it is, so I was in graduate school at the time, and my master's degree is in writing. And so I was reading lots of like Baudelaire and Arthur Rimbaud and all this kind of stuff. These poets who do a lot of prose poetry. And so I was very against rhyming at the time. So if you really look at the lyrics, there's hardly any normal rhyme scheme that's usually associated with other songs. In fact, it's almost devoid of any rhyming. And so that's the part that I like about the song is that I set out to do something. I was like, I'm going to have a popular song that doesn't rhyme. And the thing is, no one has really ever noticed.
I've never thought about that when I hear the song.
Yeah, because it's like normally it's like the cat sat on the mat, and then and that's how songs are, right? Right. But there's only one thing I remember reading an interview one time with some guy in another. This was in England, and the guy in the band mentioned that I was like, I don't even understand that Breakfast at Tiffany song. It doesn't even rhyme. And I was like, this one guy knows. Yeah. And I was like, it doesn't rhyme because I couldn't figure it out. It's because I didn't want it to rhyme, but at least you noticed.
Hey, man.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, okay, we got some other quick ones. Let's see. What country that has the most fanatics for DBS?
That would probably be Germany, maybe. Germany, Denmark, Sweden,
Okay.
Now, what's funny is, though, I always get these cell phone videos from people just drunk as skunks in a bar singing it at the top of their lungs.
Okay.
And that always comes from England, though. One of my friends is out somewhere and they're just holding their phone up and the whole place is going mental, singing at the top of their lungs. And then also recently in Ireland, like one of the assistants to the prime minister got arrested, and his solution was to just sing Breakfast at Tiffany's at the top of his lungs. And so maybe there's more crazies in England, Ireland. It's just I've seen more of them in Germany and Denmark.
I got you. Okay, why a student asked this?
Uh-oh.
Why do you hate students playing your songs?
I don't hate it.
Or singing it.
It's just sort of an obvious joke. I've heard it. I get it. And so when it's like third period and right. Some kid comes in and he starts playing it with his phone, I'm like, believe it or not, others have done the same thing. So it's not that I'm embarrassed by it. It's just we've done this for 10 years now.
Oh, man. I remember your son's senior year at the prom. You weren't there, were you?
No, I was not. But again, I saw a video.
Oh, and he's crowd surfing.
Yeah.
They got him up in the air, crowd surfing. He's leading it. They're singing. They're going through the whole. I mean, it was amazing.
Yeah. He's actually been a really good sport about it. Like he could have been really sick of it, but I think he thinks it's actually kind of funny and just lets it be that. So I think that's good.
I did too. I really enjoyed it. Let's go some favorites.
Okay.
What's your favorite road city?
Oh my gosh. Maybe Denver?
Denver.
Yeah, it's kind of weird, I know, but that's true. Chicago too is always good to us. So
okay.
Yeah.
What about stadiums or venues to perform in? Favorite?
Irving Plaza in New York.
Irving Plaza.
Yeah, it's a really old theater in one of those old buildings, big balcony around the whole thing. Yeah, and you get that place rocking, the whole building vibrates. It's cool. Yeah. And the metro in Chicago.
All right. So this one's from your wife.
Uh-oh.
Your wife says you're struggling with this one now. Cat or dog, man?
Okay. So we have a new dog as of day before yesterday.
Okay.
Okay, so I love all animals. Okay. If she brought home an alligator, I would love it. Okay. Now, with that said,
yes,
I like cats better. I think they're super funny. I like the fact that, they're not fully domesticated. They just don't attack us because we're bigger than them. Right? You know what I'm saying? Like it's scientifically proven, and that's why they act the way they do. So our cats, they do their thing. It's kind of like having a couple of extra teenagers walking around. They'll hang out with you when they want, but not when you want to. But I love dogs. So,
but cats are a little.
Cats are funnier.
Wow, I am just the opposite. For sure. All right. The last question here. Give me your Mount Rushmore of bands. Top 4, Mount Rushmore.
How many heads are on Mount Rushmore? 5?
4.
4?
4.
Oh, okay. Have to be The Who, Rush, The Who, Rush, The Cure, probably
Gap
Japan.
Japan. So name them again. The Who.
The Who, Rush, The Cure. I said Japan. Well, let me add, there's a 5th. So the Smiths have to be in there too.
Smiths. Japan. No, not the Gap Band.
Now, I do, my affinity for the Gap Band. Yes. Yeah. I love the Gap Band. I don't know that I celebrate their entire catalog.
Okay.
So that's why they wouldn't be Mount Rushmore.
There it is.
Classics, though.
Well, hey, man, it's been good, man. I want to thank you for spending some time with us today. And in closing, I always like to honor my parents, Lee and Cree, and encourage us all to unite and give somebody a smile. So with that, I want to tip my hat and say Zakomo. You know what that means?
I do not.
Thank you in Zambia.
Oh, nice. Thank you.
Cool. So have a good one, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. See ya.
See ya.
Hanging with her.